It saddens me to say that another great studio has fallen victim to EA's serial killing. EA has officially announced that Visceral Games, best known for developing the Dead Space series, has officially been shut down. Here's what their official statement said. Our Visceral studio has been developing an action-adventure title set in the Star Wars universe. In its current form, it was shaping up to be a story-based, linear adventure game. Throughout the development process, we have been testing the game concept with players, listening to the feedback about what and how they want to play, and closely tracking fundamental shifts in the marketplace. It has become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to and enjoy for a long time to come, we needed to pivot the design. We will maintain the stunning visuals, authenticity in the Star Wars universe, and focus on bringing a Star Wars story to life. Importantly, we are shifting the game to be a broader experience that allows for more variety and player agency, leaning into the capabilities of our Frostbite engine and reimagining central elements of the game to give players a Star Wars adventure of greater depth and breadth to explore. What they're basically saying is we realize that a fun, story-based, linear, single-player adventure game would not milk money dry from our consumers, so we're making it multiplayer focused so that we can shove in microtransactions and loot boxes. This is EA's push to turn what could have been a perfectly great standalone game with no strings or bullshit attached into a Games as Service, an initiative that they've been pushing for a while now. You can bet your ass that whatever the final product of this Star Wars game ends up being won't be anything like the Uncharted-style Star Wars game that was originally conceptualized. EA continued, this move leads to a few other changes. A development team from across EA worldwide studios will take over development of this game, led by a team from EA Vancouver that has already been working on the project. Our Visceral studio will be ramping down and closing, and we're in the midst of shifting as many of the team as possible to other projects and teams at EA. Lastly, while we had originally expected this game to launch late in our fiscal year 2019, we are now looking at a new time frame that we will announce in the future. This kind of despicable scumbaggery, ladies and gentlemen, is nothing new for EA. This isn't the first time they have bought or taken over a great studio, sucked the life essence out of them with unrealistic sales expectations and forced upon shady business practices, and then shit them right back out into the ether, absorbing their core IPs and essential personnel into themselves along the way and only leaving behind the remaining shell. The most recent case that I can think of is Bioware Montreal. After Mass Effect Andromeda's underwhelming critical and commercial performance, instead of giving them the chance to finish the open story threads of the game like the Quarian arc, or to come back stronger for the second game, they immediately set out to shut down Bioware Montreal and scatter them across other EA studios and projects. And before you say that it's all Bioware's fault for not making a good game, keep in mind that one of the biggest setbacks for Andromeda was how EA forced them to use and promote the Frostbite engine, which was not equipped to handle an RPG of that scale. That's what EA does. They force their own will upon the studios that they acquire, lowering the quality of their products, decimating their full potential, and when they don't go to sell millions or rake in billions, they send the studio to the chopping block. Same thing with Visceral Games, after imposing their will upon the Dead Space series, when that didn't go on to sell as well as they expected, especially after they implemented microtransactions in the third game, when Battlefield Hardline wasn't the massive success that they hoped for, and when this new Star Wars project wasn't in line with, quote, fundamental shifts in the marketplace. They absorbed all of the studio's essence, IPs like Dead Space and projects like this Star Wars game, while spitting out the remaining shell of the studio. They did the same thing with Maxis and the Sims series, absorbing their core IPs and spitting out everything else while turning a once great franchise into a shadow of its former self. And they did the same thing with Pandemic, the original creators of the Star Wars Battlefront series. Pandemic was purchased by EA back in 2008, and they were shut down a year later in 2009. EA got to suck the studio dry of its valuable IPs like the Battlefront series and then go on to make millions off of it on their own terms, while Pandemic was left to bite the dust. To make a shitty situation worse, Kotaku managed to get a hold of an internal email that EA CEO and scumbag Patrick Soderlund sent to his employees, providing further details about the sudden shift for the new Star Wars game, codenamed Ragtag. The email said, a development team from across worldwide studios will take over development of Ragtag, led by the EA Vancouver team that has already been working on the project. Steve Anthony will lead this team, and we will use much of the work that has been done to date by Visceral. The assets of Ragtag that have already been built will be the foundation of this new game. In case you didn't know, originally this Star Wars game was being led by the renowned developer Hennig, longtime Uncharted director who left Naughty Dog and joined Visceral Games to pursue this, what used to be a single-player Uncharted-style Star Wars project. Now, as an EA executive producer, this Steve Anthony guy takes over. Amy's fate is left unknown as they are in discussions with Amy about her next move, according to an EA spokesman. So yeah, in case you had any doubts that this Uncharted-style Star Wars game has been completely taken over by EA, and that it won't be anywhere near the same game that Amy was creating, there you go. The game isn't even being led by her anymore. EA canned her work and replaced her by putting their own lackey in charge. The Star Wars game that we were hoping for, the one that we once knew, it's done. It's gone. The only thing that they're keeping are the assets and stuff like that, and EA is imposing their own will to make the game that they're envisioning, which is bound to be filled with bullshit like microtransactions and loot boxes that will affect gameplay and allow people to pay their way to victory. I would hope and pray that studios learn from this and stay as far away from the Hannibal Lecter of the gaming industry as possible. Hannibal will find a way to charm you, but I guarantee you that giving in to them will always result in eventually being murdered, eaten, and then promptly shit out. The only thing that's uncertain at this point is who is next on the chopping block. My guess is that if Anthem doesn't do EA wonders, Bioware might be up next. My guess is that the studio is walking on thin ice after Andromeda's failure. And when that happens, EA will absorb their essential personnel and IPs like Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and Anthem, and then spit out whatever husk remains. There truly is no worse company than EA in the gaming industry. There is no other company that is killing the gaming industry quite like they are. I'll say this once more, fuck EA. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you found this video useful, enlightening, and if you enjoy my content, consider supporting me on Patreon to help our community remain 100% independent. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out!